The Surface laptop is one of the best Windows laptops ever made. It's a worthy addition to Microsoft's PC family, but it doesn't pack in any of the unique features we've grown to expect, like the removable screens or hybrid capabilities of the Surface Pro and Book. It's simply a laptop, but what a laptop it is. In many ways, it's the evolution of the MacBook Air's design that we've been waiting for. Its aluminum case is smooth to the touch, and it feels incredibly solid. There's no sign of flexing at all. It echoes the design of the other Surface devices when it comes to its overall shape, with its rounded edges and clean lines. But of course, there's no kickstand like on the Surface, and no unique hinge like the Surface Book. At 2.8 pounds, the Surface laptop is lighter than the MacBook Air. It's not a huge difference, but it's noticeable. While the Surface laptop doesn't sport ultra-thin bezels like Dell's XPS line, it manages to fit in a 13.5-inch screen. It's a great-looking display, as usual for the Surface line, with bold and accurate colors. It's bright enough for outdoor use, though the screen itself is a bit reflective. With a 2256 by 1504 resolution, the display is also very sharp, about on par with what you get with a Retina display on a Mac. The screen simply makes everything look great, be it text, images, or video. You won't find any speaker grills on the Surface laptop either. Instead, the sound comes directly through the keyboard. It's a bit odd at first, but it makes for a far better experience than you'd find on most laptops. And speaking of the keyboard, it's the most unique design element of the Surface laptop. It's covered in Alcantara, a microfiber material that's typically found in cars and was previously used in one of the Surface keyboards. Yes, it's very strange to use a keyboard that's essentially surrounded by fabric, but it didn't take too long for me to adjust. I grew to appreciate how soft and comfortable it felt on my wrists, as well as the fact that it's warmer than the aluminum case. The keyboard itself is simply excellent, with a satisfying amount of key depth and responsiveness, and the touchpad is very smooth as well. It would have been nice to have a few more ports though. It only has a single USB 3.0 port, a mini display port, a headphone jack, and the proprietary Surface power slot. If you need an SD card slot or more ports, be prepared to buy a hub. We'd like to see Microsoft finally adopt USB-C, which would make the laptop easier to charge and add some flexibility for connecting accessories. Aside from being Microsoft's most traditional notebook, the Surface laptop is also the company's flagship Windows 10s device, its slightly stripped-down OS meant for schools. The major difference from Windows 10 Pro is that it can only run apps from the Windows Store. By doing so, Microsoft says it'll perform better over time, since it won't get bogged down by malware and potentially dangerous software. Mostly, Windows 10s made me realize many of the apps I needed, like Evernote and Slack, are already on the Windows Store. More essential apps like iTunes and Spotify are coming as well. But after a few days of experimenting, I also wanted more freedom, especially since I had no other way to access apps I needed like Chrome. The good thing about Windows 10s, you can easily upgrade it to Windows 10 Pro to install apps from anywhere. It's a free upgrade for education customers and people who require assistive features, as well as for any Windows 10s device that costs over $799. Otherwise, it'll cost $49 or under, depending on manufacturer discounts. Performance-wise, the Surface laptop held up to my usual workflow, and I never noticed any slowdown on our review unit, which was powered by an Intel Core i5 processor and 8GB of RAM. It's fine for Minecraft and less demanding games, but keep your expectations in check since there isn't a dedicated graphics card. Microsoft claims the Surface laptop gets around 14.5 hours of battery life while playing video, and in our testing, that came pretty close. It's a huge improvement from the Surface Pro 4, which had merely average battery life. Previously, you had to upgrade to the bulkier Surface Book to get decent battery performance. Price-wise, the Surface laptop is on par with similar ultra-portables. It starts at $999 with a Core i5 processor, 4GB of RAM, and 128GB of storage. We'd recommend bumping up to the $1299 model with 8GB of RAM and a 256GB SSD. Though, if you really want to splurge, you can fit in a Core i7 with 16GB of RAM and 512GB of storage for $2199. Microsoft set out to make the most refined notebook it could with the Surface laptop, and for the most part, it succeeded. It's sleek, powerful, and has great battery life. It might seem like a step back for Microsoft after trying to promote new twists on notebooks over the past few years, but it's more of a realization. There's still a huge demand for traditional laptops, and Microsoft just showed the competition how it's done.